Burgess Bolton's weekly wrap-up.
Hello, Ben.
Hi, Jeremy. Happy Nearly Friday.
Happy nearly Friday. And the weather is looking fantastic. The forecast.
Fabulous. Yeah, it is actually. Yes, it's rather good. And we've pre-recorded this, so it's avoided Friday the 13th.
Yes, we are superstitious in that way.
Yeah.
We didn't want to jinx anything. But welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of Burgess Bolton's weekly wrap-up, where we look at everything to do with the London market, technology, change, innovation. This week, as well as the news, we'll have a quick look at AI and some of the results from the pre-event survey for TinTech. But as always, to kick us off, let's start with the news. And big news this week, Ben, is that the aeroplane situation in Russia has been somewhat resolved, and I think we covered this. When the war first broke out in Russia and Ukraine, and there was a bunch of planes basically stuck in Russia, and a claim came in for it. But this has gone some way to resolve it, but not all the way. Is that our reading of it?
Yeah, well, it's one of several cases, and it's a UK case, and AerCap is the largest leasing company in the world, so it's a very significant case, and it's gone sort of against the insurers. I mean, that's what the headlines are saying. If you reel it back a bit, the original claim was for $3 billion, and that was for an all losses, like a multiple losses, not just a single war loss, which is what the court has actually ruled. So the court has ruled this as a single war loss for each plane. So each plane gets kind of valued on that it's gone on the day that the war started, and that results in $1 billion loss, roughly, just about $1 billion. Although I think that's the headline number. I think because there's more cases to come and things like that, it is significant because there'll be more losses to come if the cases all go this way in the US and things. So I don't think it's the end of it for sure. And I think it's what is it? What do they say? Is it the end of the beginning or the beginning of the end? I'm not sure, but it's one of those. And I was out with people last night, claims people, talking to them about this, and they said it is expected. It was expected that this case would go this way for quite some time. They've expected it. There was some views that why didn't we just sort it out and agree it, quite a long time ago. Looks as if insurers are trying to wriggle out things a bit. We kind of discussed that. Wasn't a great look for the industry generally. I suppose most people won't be looking at this case, though. It's not like household insurance or claimed and shamed or something, is it? It's not going to be on there. But it's that sort of thing. But it's obviously a material loss to the market. A lot of big players mentioned here, AIG, others are on this loss, and some have already settled. So some insurers have already done deals basically with AerCap to settle. It now goes over obviously to reinsurers. So the insurers have been fighting this case, and now the reinsurers who have got to pay up from the policies that the insurers have with the reinsurers. So that's going to create a bit of tension, and the reinsurers will probably bring their own case to court. So it'll rumble on.
Yeah, that sounds like a quick fix for the next 3 years.
Well, it's a lot of money, and nobody ever wants to pay out a lot of money without an argument and dotting the I's and crossing the T's, and that's what we've got here. But it's not good, but not surprising. And as you said at the beginning, it kind of does go some way to resolving quite a lot of it, but it'll rumble on. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll probably be talking about it in 3 years' time.
Yeah. Good. Right. That Ben. Right. Are we starting to move into the results of the pre-event survey? But to tee things up, you've been looking at this story around AI chatbots, and as the FT article here says, telling people what they want to hear. And this feeds quite nicely into some of the topics that we're going to talk about at TinTech next week. But yeah, do you want to give us a quick?
Yeah, so this is a big issue, and it's funny. There was an FT AI and insurance seminar yesterday, and they didn't really touch on this. And I did actually put a question in, and it was completely ignored, which really doesn't surprise me, obviously, that I was ignored. But I think it's a much bigger issue than we think, and I think it has particular relevance for insurance because of the sort of decisions that we might want to make around AI. And I've been following this kind of theme because other people have been writing about it in other, just generally about the issue with AI, which is this. And this article kind of sums up the problem, which is that AI, yes, is telling us what they want to hear. Now, the reason for this is not sinister. Well, some of it might be sinister, but AI models are trained on this thing called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLFH. So what happens is that real humans, rate the answers that these chatbots or LLMs give. And they rate them as being whether they're acceptable to a human being or not. So if it comes out with something that's kind of rude or disrespectful, it would say that's not really what we want you to do. And so it's basically training in these behaviors, and then the models follow these behaviors. And the trouble is they end up being quite sort of sycophantic, really, and they end up being kind of overly nice to you, even if you put in something that was terrible and rubbish. So of course that is what humans kind of like as well, because it's flattering and it makes it agreeable to deal with. And of course, if you're dealing with these things, you can't have them being rude, because then people will get fed up with them and stop using them. And of course, people want to make money out of this as well as it being a useful thing.
Yeah.
So there is a balance to be struck. Now, the companies are looking at it and trying to deal with it. And so they've got Claude, for example, has got two versions of Claude. So Claude gives an answer, and then another version of Claude says, is that overly kind of flattering or nice? And then it checks. So the slightly worrying that the AI checks the AI, but anyway. And the kind of problem that they then get, though, is that actually it's pretty obvious. I think we all know this when an AI chatbot's being too nice, because you can see it, it's obvious, and you just kind of dismiss it, and that's fine. But where the problem comes in is the subtle nuances of language. So, and you kind of need it to have these subtle nuances where it's reinforcing or helping. So when it becomes reinforcing subtly, and you're using lots of these things all the time, in other words, it becomes ubiquitous, then what you've really got is like a mirror being held up to ourselves, telling us what we want to hear. And we're very grateful because we like that. So the problem is then, what do we do about that? Now, there's a guy called Ben Hunt who does this website called Epsilon Theory, which is investment, but he talks about things like AI and how it's working. And he says that what you need to do is to kind of take a step back and ask yourself this question: do I need this to be true? So if the answer to that question is yes, I do need it, in other words, it's something important, you should take a step back and critically question it. What's it telling me, what's it doing? And he says, so taking a beat creates a moment of critical distance, the only way I know of to get a glimpse of the magician behind the magician, which is quite a nice way of saying it. This is magic that we're dealing with, and we like it because it's magic, but you kind of need to see why and what it's doing behind the scenes, but you only get a glimpse of that. So that's what you do. And so anyway, I think this kind of goes into and will go into the kind of ethics of AI and how we use it and deploy it. And if you take it into insurance, if we're going to use it, for example, in claims, we're going to use it in whether we write important insurance policies that help people or businesses, we've got to really be on top of this stuff. So there is a good thing, I suppose, is that people are aware of it and businesses are aware of it, but it becomes a self-fulfilling thing. You create, I mean, there are all sorts of alternative realities. Of course, we know that, and there's no such thing as, you know, a reality. So, but we are moving into a world where AI will be the reality. And so, for example, there is this thing now where they're getting worried about people becoming addicted to AI. You know, AI becomes my friend. So if you say got mental health issues or something, you know, you use it to, and it reinforces things, and that's a dangerous thing potentially, because it's not objective, telling you what you want to hear.
Yep.
And you know, so I think it's you know, these are ethical issues that we're kind of wrestling with. But I suppose we're aware of it. I mean, you know, there's articles being written about it and there's people talking about it. But there may come a time, I suppose, where we've forgotten about these articles and we're just in that world, and that's that, you know.
Yeah. I think from the conversations that I've been having, I think and some of the roles that have been created. So, for example, I've now seen people with a job title of AI governance and ethics or something like that. So I think within insurance, especially personal lines, where, you know, chatbots play a more prominent role, I think they do understand kind of the risk side of things, either giving a customer the wrong information or making a decision that's incorrect if we were looking at it as humans. So there's definitely that side of thing. And I think most organizations are not starting with that kind of customer front end chatbot here. I think they're looking at what are some of the let's just call them back office functions that are actually taking up a lot of time and human resource to do it. And are there ways in which we can use AI agents, agentic AI models in order to do some of those things? And I think what's really interesting there is when you said AI checking AI, I think that is the way forward. So you don't have one kind of master AI god that is running a whole process. You have lots of little AI agents that can do the small parts. So it's very much like if you were setting up a new department in your organization, then you'd have a manager, you'd have a technical expert, you'd probably have, I don't know, somebody who knew about the computers that ran on it or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I think when we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, they were saying you have the bot that is kind of running the process, the small bit of admin that is being repeated, but then you've got a linesman and a referee, they call them that are kind of checking its work and just making sure, and also having that, you know, that original AI agent has somewhere to go to ask a question. And then you can put a human into that kind of loop. But I think there's three things that you need for that. First, you need a data strategy, and what I mean by that is you understand how your data is structured and what it means. It doesn't have to be standardized. You just have to really understand what it means and how it goes across the organization. You need to absolutely understand what the processes are right now. And that is a very easy thing to say, and actually quite a complex thing to do, because you know, John on a Wednesday might put a spreadsheet or a number in a spreadsheet because that's the way it's always run. Nobody knows why, but it just does it because that's it. And really have a deep understanding of those processes, and then having the outcome. What is the business outcome that you are trying to achieve? Because without that, you have lots of little projects running off, and you kind of lose control, and suddenly you've just added a bunch of cost onto your operating model that you know you were trying to streamline or whatever it was. So I think there are some fundamentals there. The fog for me is starting to clear around kind of the near-term opportunities for AI, and thinking of them as employees doing a very small part of a process is quite a neat way of kind of getting your head around some of this some of this stuff that can be completely overwhelming.
I think you're right, and I think you you've described absolutely where the practical applications of this are, and they are there. I think the dangers are the wider context of, I've talked about AI being democratic, but that means, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing if everybody's falling into this world where you kind of lose a bit of context because you're using it for everything. I mean, I don't know whether you just took what you just said off ChatGPT. Is that you, Jeremy, or was it the AI bot telling me what I wanted to hear about the fog clearing on AI? I mean, that sounds like, whatever DeepMind telling me that it's all right, don't worry. But anyway, so I'm just saying, for me, it's about, you're right. I think it's about the context of you knowing your own data and not becoming kind of untethered from that. Because, in my business, I think I know what our data's telling us and what it's not telling us, and, what the gaps are and what the things are that are useful and valuable in terms of the data. And it doesn't tell you everything. It's not a perfect science. Of course, what AI will do is kind of make it, if I run my data through AI, it tends to tell you it's a perfectly rational, here's everything you need to know about it, which of course you feel very grateful for. But you've got to then, as Ben Hunt says, step back a bit and go, well, hang on a minute. Yeah. There are counterfactuals. There are things that we actually don't know about. And the trouble with AI is we're the people putting it's a reflection of ourselves and what we've put in. It's not the challenger who comes along. I'm kind of having a conversation in my head I had yesterday with somebody who I really respect, who told me some things about the insurance market that I just didn't know and I'd never known. And they were quite sort of gobsmacking that people in the market didn't know them. And I'm thinking now, that sort of thing would not come out of AI. It needs a human being with critical thinking and experience to say, do you know how this really works? It works like this. So I completely accept. And actually, one of the things they do say is that actually you need to use several different AI models, which I think people are doing, aren't they? They're sort of saying, we'll put it into Perplexity, then we'll put it into ChatGPT and see if they line up. Yeah. So you're testing the models really to see whether they come out, and that's happening quite naturally, which is good. But it is it reminds me a little bit of the people, the ethicists and people in these businesses. They're a bit like the padre or the priest in the trenches in the First World War, aren't they? They're like, yes, we're here, but war's terrible and there's slaughter all around them. And you're kind of thinking, but what? They're like a sticking plaster over what's already, the terrible things that are already happening. So, yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I mean, I think we're just at the early days of this, and it's moving very quickly. So I think there's, we're questioning everything about what we do. And I think for the insurance industry, it's you start to look at the whole proposition as to what we're doing. So it is true transformation. I mean, if what you're saying is, well, AI kind of helps to do the job we're doing already slightly better, that's one thing. But if it's actually saying, well, we'll literally turn insurance on its head and AI will almost do everything. And it's not far-fetched to say that with insurance, because it's a sort of, a bit of a finger in the air job, isn't it? There's a risk, get a rough bit of data around it, see if we'll underwrite, assign some capital, blah, 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 blah. You could see humans being taken out of quite a lot of the elements of that process in our industry anyway.
Yeah. I think, I don't think you'll hear anybody on the stage next week at TinTech saying that is going to be the future. I think, to scare the flock, let's carry on the religious metaphor. The torture.
Well, and therein lies the other problem, is that everybody's trying to make a bit of money and put, and get their own, bit of juice out of this. And that again creates the problem of, well, what does the AI do if you're advertising on it? It wants you to keep using it. It wants to keep paying the subscription and so on. So there's the commercial element, as always, is tricky. And of course, everyone will say, "Well, it's all right, it's fine," until it isn't, and then just I warned here first. That's all I'm saying. Do you remember? I told you so from Ben on here.
Yeah, there we are. Stake in the ground, which leads us nicely on to our final topic. So Tintech is on Tuesday. What I thought I'd do was just what I have done is pull together the results of the pre-event survey. So Tintech, for those that don't know, is technology strategy event that we run annually. So we run one for GI and London Market in June next week, and then we do the London Market only one in February. And what's quite interesting is that we run a pre-event survey, and that just gives us a kind of flavour of some of the topics and themes that people have top of mind before they turn up to the conference, and it helps shape the day. But there are kind of 5 kind of dominant and interrelated themes that come out of this year's survey, and I'll just read them off. AI adoption and operationalization, data integration and governance, as we've just been talking about, legacy modernization, digital transformation at scale, and measurable business results. So I think what's interesting about these survey results, as opposed to the previous, let's say, 2 or 3 years, is that there isn't that kind of grappling or needing to understand what AI is and what the opportunities are and what the hype is. It's about adoption and scalability and making sure that you deliver some kind of business value. So I think during the course of the day, we're going to have a number of use cases. So it'd be interesting to see how different organizations, whether they be brokers, underwriters, personal lines, or London Market, how they're using that tech, and to what outcome. And then I think the other thing that's really interesting is around this idea of kind of change fatigue. So we've had a period, let's say the last 5 years, maybe even longer, with kind of, if you bring in the insurtech bubble of maybe 8 or 10 years ago, we've had a period of just kind of non-stop change, and let's put COVID into that as well. Another massive upheaval that we didn't see coming along. So you've got all these big things coming along that's putting, I'm going to call it, mental pressure on your employees, and to keep that level of that appetite, I suppose, for change and transformation, and to keep it on track, so to actually deliver some business results, is, I think, organizations and business leaders are finding that particularly difficult. So I think that's going to be a big topic for next week as well. And something we've talked about as well, Ben. There's kind of, what's it mean for the people and the culture of your organization?
Yeah. I mean, if you look at the UK, look at the UK GI market. I mean, our surveys would show that something like 75-80% of brokers e-trade now on they trade on computers, trade simple vanilla risks. The adoption of things like claims portals is pretty universal now, I think. I mean, they're not that every insurer's got them, but the use of those by brokers. So there is quite a lot of technology going on, and there's more investments. I think Aviva, for example, I think is kind of leading a bit on this with AI in claims, and which is had McKinsey in doing, and they've just launched a new trading platform. And the battle, really, the commercial battle, competitive battle, is really centering around technology, because there are very thin margins on the type of business that is written in UK SME markets. It's always been volume, but thin returns. But it is stable business, and it's not like specialty business, which is highly volatile. So it's kind of attractive in cash flow terms to investors. And what I think is what's happening is that there are big bets being placed. So nearly nearly every big player is vying for a position in the UK GI market. And I think the solution, as they see it, the silver bullet, if you like, is technology, and that will create slightly or even much better margins for the business. And brokers are in on this, because it's not as if brokers are kind of resisting it, because they're saying, yeah, we don't want to be, we haven't got, in our cost model, we can't have more people selling these policies. We need them to be efficient and delivered easily. So, combined commercial, simple motor policies, all those sorts of things. We want that just to be press the button stuff, and we'll deal with the more specialty risks, when they come up. So it'll be very interesting next week, because I think it is about the business outcome, but it's not just the outcomes within businesses. I think it's the big strategy of most businesses. It's just, are we going to move forward properly into a fully e-traded type of market, really, and free up people, humans, to do good quality service for the customers, which is needed, and innovation for new products for emerging or specialist risks like cyber, I suppose, which is hard to sell at the moment. So I think there's a big prize. Well, the insurers think there's a big prize here, and a huge competitive battle around it, really, because the pricing is dropping at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. So really looking forward to the event next Tuesday. If you're coming along, do post on here any questions you want to have raised at the event. We'll try and weave them in, but there'll be plenty of opportunity. You're coming along, Ben?
I am. Yes, I will be there. Yeah.
Good.
Be there or be square, as they say. Used to say in the 1970s.
Yeah. Question mark.
Hey, I saw something. This is an aside. I saw something, a YouTube video about things we used to do when we were kids, and we should show it once, because it's very funny. I mean, one of them is that when you go through a doorway, you jump up and touch the top, of the door. Oh God, that's absolutely right. I'd never do that now. But when you're a kid, every doorway you go through, you leap up and touch the lintel at the top.
Yeah. It still works for me at my height.
Yeah, for you, yeah. Do it. I mean, it's just, and it's not just a height thing, is it? It's just that's what you used to do when you were a kid, and you stopped doing it. I'll get some more for next week. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to start doing that. I hope there's lots of people.
Do your back in or your knee. You can't. That's the point.
Yes. Yeah. Anyhow. Yeah, we'll get some of those up next week. That'd be good. Okay. Let's wrap things up. What are you doing this weekend, Ben?
Well, it's Father's Day, isn't it?
Oh, is it? Oh, right. Okay.
Do you not know? Yeah, Father's Day.
No, I've got a bigger event. It's my mum and dad's 80th birthday party on Saturday.
Wonderful.
So I am kind of emceeing that. So it's going to be quite funny. We've got a quiz and got some people coming. So, that should be fun. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, that'd be brilliant. Well, send my best to your parents.
Yeah. Oh, and a fate update. I was running the Villiage.
Oh, yes, you're managing the fate. Yes, everybody's been asking about that.
I got a lot of correspondence. It was a success. People showed up. The weather was good, and we made a bit of profit. First time ever. I'm not saying it was all down to me, but
a mastermind of business.
Well, I'm not retiring on but it's better than making a loss.
Yeah. Do you know fates and jumble sales? They make more money when it rains.
Do they?
Yeah, because in the sunshine, people just wander around enjoying the sunshine, not spending as much money. But my mum was a teacher, a deputy head teacher, and she used to run, the school fete, summer fete every year. She did it in loads of schools, and she said it always makes more money because then people have to go inside, and then they go, "Oh, I'll spend some money."
Ours was all outdoors, though. So if it had rained, no one would have come.
Well, there's that. Obviously, there's that problem. Yeah. Do you not want to hear about my golf last week?
I do want to hear about the golf. Yes. Did you get there okay?
I got there okay. Actually, airline BA not good. Long queues, and I was flying business class as well, so it was really rubbish. That was not good. So I haven't flown in a while, so that was a bit disappointing to say the least. But then it was all right on the plane and everything, and we got to Portugal. Lovely weather, as you might expect, and we won. Glorious. I was brilliant. Basically, I was a master of
Well
the
done.
game. I've cracked it basically. I don't know how that's happened, but in my advanced years, but it has. Yeah.
Brilliant. Well done. So there's another big golf tournament on this weekend, isn't there? I don't know.
Yes, the most difficult course in the world. Yeah, apparently Oakmont. Yeah, the US Open. So
right. Well,
worth
look forward to
watching
seeing you.
if you want to. Of course, you'll never play on, and you'll never want to play on.
There you go. Right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you're coming to Tintout, we'll see you there. If not, we'll see you next week. Have a good weekend.
Happy weekend. Bye.